Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I got two little friends here that I will be using to give you a different angle on the issue these guys are crying about, and these guys being Reuters. Let me read you the title, and the title is Kremlin Aid Rewrites Russian History for a Society at War. Reuters. This is from today, August 10th, 2023. So, in Vladimir Putin's Russia, the Kremlin even writes the history textbooks. Kremlin aide Vladimir Medinsky has published four history textbooks for 16 to 18-year-old school children, giving a completely revised interpretation of the fall of the Soviet Union, the Putin era, and the causes of the Ukraine war. So, the books which enter schools next month reflect Putin's historical view, pride at the achievements of the superpower Soviet Union, indignation at the humiliations of the Soviet collapse, and a claim for the rebirth of Russia under the former KGB spies' rule, which began on the last day of 1999. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. So they're going to tell us here a few things that Putin wrote it with his little claw, and they're very upset about it. I mean, how come these guys dare to write their own history the way they want to write it? I wonder who writes the United States history. The government, my friends. People that are hired to write the history. Now, when I came here in this beautiful country some time ago, before I came here, I started reading whatever I could about United States culture, history, and so on. Couldn't find too much. To be honest, there were just a few things written by some Romanian this, Romanian that, and from a certain lens. When I came to the United States of America, I picked all kind of books to read as much then. So the first book I got was this one right here, and I like this kind of books that are dated. So they start from the beginning and they give you dates. So, for instance, they go by each. I don't know if you're gonna see it, but they're gonna give you dates. Pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up, chronological. And this guy, I didn't know at that time. This guy is called. His name is Schlesinger, Arthur Schlesinger. I didn't know that he is junior. Mr. Schlesinger is the official historian of the U.S. government. So it's a beautiful book. I read it in about a day and a half, a night and a half, not even. I like reading fast because you remain with all the things. It's like a movie that goes around instead of like this. You can see patterns. So good book, but not complete. This is government accredited, I would say, revised and updated edition. Obviously, this is not provided by the U.S. government. No, I got other history books here that you learn in school here. So this is this. But then I got this book, and this book is, let me see. This book is, I want to look at the date. Yeah, this was in the same year. The Schlesinger was, I bought it on the 17th of February, and this one was in the 7th of April, the same year. Okay? Now, this is Howard Zinn book, People's History of the United States of America, and the other one, I guess, that is Schlesinger's. So, if you read these books and put them together, that's two different interpretations of history, of U.S. history. So, this is not written by the government, but it's written by a historian, Howard Zinn. Poor guy died about, I can't remember how many years ago, 10 years, more than 10 years ago, I think. But it's okay. Noam Chomsky is still alive. His friends from MIT, all right, in Massachusetts. So if you read these two books, you're going to find out two different interpretations of the history. I will give you some example. Schlesinger talks about, for instance, the Shea Rebellion, right? And he talks about the Shea Rebellion, those guys who returned from the War of Independence, they went back, and then they realized that they lost everything, and their family they were in debt. While they were gone, the tax collectors tried to get their money, and they didn't have money to give them because they were fighting the British. Nevertheless, they wanted to take their property, so they got this rebellion and so on. Now, in this book, Schlesinger, they don't tell you that the Shea Rebellion actually triggered the, how do you call it, the amendments, the 10 amendments. They didn't say anything about the amendments, but that made this guy talk about it and say, actually, because of that, that was one of the reasons why the people said, maybe we need the amendments to the Constitution. Supposedly, Shea Rebellion helped that too. That's one interpretation. Now, if you read this about, let's say, who should we use? The War for Independence, this tells you one thing, this tells you a little bit different. They tell you the rich people, and this tell you the American founding fathers. Okay? They were rich, they were. Some of them, most of them, slave owners, they were. Well, that was the time then. What can you do about it? But these are a little bit more this, these are a little bit more that. Or which is left. This is more this is a little bit that, or this is like that. And you can go to the Second World War. The Second World War, these guys will tell you, this guy will tell you about the great atomic bombs, okay, and he gives you all the acceptable justification, which is we shortened the war, we stopped the war, our boys and all that, and those guys were crazy, and we had to do it, man. This guy tells you, no, it was the war crime. We didn't have to do it. We did it because we want to scare the Soviets and everybody else, and we want to see the destruction, and blah, 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 blah. Because these guys were trying to actually go and talk to the Soviets, and, not a unconditional surrender. They wanted a different kind of surrender. These guys wanted a unconditional surrender. So drop the bombs, got the guys, surrendered to them, not to the Soviets, for instance. And you can look at, for instance, the JFK's assassination. And the same way, JFK assassination is written by these guys. Or if you want to look, for instance, at the Cuban Missile Crisis, the same, these guys write it. You're never going to find out that actually Khrushchev made the Americans take their freaking weapons, the Jupiter nuclear missiles, from Turkey out. That was the whole point. You're not going to find that. You're going to find out things like, Kennedy looked into Khrushchev's eyes and Khrushchev blinked. And then he took his rockets, nuclear weapons from Cuba. There were never nuclear weapons in Cuba. They were planning on doing that. They were building the sites, but they say, oh, he took his nuclear weapons. There was no nuclear weapon in Cuba. I don't know if these guys are going to allow that, but that's a fact, and they should check it out. They didn't bring any nuclear. They were building, bringing the tubes, bringing the rockets, but the nuclear heads, they were not there. Anyway, so it was the blackmail. When Khrushchev told Kennedy, take your freaking Jupiters from Turkey, planted with nuclear warheads in Turkey, the Americans said, beat it. Yeah? Okay, we're going to make you do it. And he made them. How? We're going to build ours in Turkey, in Cuba. And they did. So who won? You're not going to be taught this in school and in a 16 or 18-year-old guy. No. We're the tough guys. And that's the way it is. Each country writes its own history as being strong and tough, not weasels. And why would you write that you're a weasel? They want now to make it that way. They'll be sorry for everything this country did. We're not going to do that. We're not going to let these guys write a history in a way that we feel guilty for things that we or the ancestors did in this country. We will not. And this is a pussification. Why would I want to be, throwing garbage on my father? For what? No, I'm not going to do that. So the same, these guys are trying to rewrite here the history, right? And make us feel guilty. Do not feel guilty. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean you have to be a weasel. And again, we got to two little versions. The same with the Russians. The Russians write their version. What do you want? It's not your version? What do you think? Do you think the Russians could not write your history different than you know it? What would you say? You don't know my history better than I do. Go and try to change France's history and discuss over there and rewrite history and see how you're going to be smacked. The Romanians do the same thing. They take a shit on their history. The same thing as these guys. Why? I don't understand why. I don't understand. You should create, examples out of your history. Don't look for your examples, I don't know, in Asia or Africa. Look among your people, because that's the way they do it. Everybody. I mean, why should I admire your father, and I hate my father. That means you're supposed to hate your father that I admire and love my father that I despise. Is that the way it goes? They just want us to be, with no role models. Look, everything's like, oh, we did that bad. You did that bad. Yes, there were good things. Yes, there were bad things. But it matters on what, on the good or the bad are you focusing? Are you focusing on the bad? Why? Why do you take a shit on yourself? For who? For those guys? Those guys are weak. The weak. The weak will never admire the strong. As long as they get in power. And through that, the democracy, they can get in power, my friends. Because the weak will vote for a weak. Who's going to promise the weak? Therefore, you have what you have right now. Weak people and weasels because of democracy. And these weak minds will be very easily influenced by the mass media, who is owned by the strong people, right? And they couldn't actually lead the whole thing. They're in charge of everything. So anyway, they can write their history however they want, and it's not going to be the United States coming and telling the Russians how they write their history, as the Russians will not come and tell this guy how to write his history. Okay? The same thing with Romania. It's not going to be the Hungarians coming to Romanians and telling them to write the history right about Transylvania, and vice versa. You write your thing, I'm writing my thing, and that's it. Is there a truth? It is. Two interpretations could be. You have to look at it from angles. But then, what's the purpose? To be just? Are you dispensing justice? We're all guilty of something. Each and every country has its own garbage. Only Poland. Poland doesn't have anything. Poland, everybody owes them something. And I'm sorry to pick on them. I'm not sorry, but it's the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit. That's why I pick on Poland. They always want something. Everybody owes them something. Well, why don't you look in their history in about 1300s until about 1700s and find out how Poland behaved in Europe. And you're going to find out that actually, I got books about that. Just do a few clicks and you're going to find out. Check Sobietsky, for instance, one of their leaders. You want me to call him king? I call him king. I don't care. All right, that's one, and many others. And I'm not picking on that. I'm picking on many others. We all did something. What are we supposed to do? Focus on that? If we focus on that, what are you going to do? Go back, and you're going to uncover a lot of garbage. Why do you want to do that? Leave it the fuck alone and start over. But how are you going to do it? You write your history the way you want it. That's not good. I want you to write your history the way I want it. What about the other ones say the same thing? No, because I'm in charge. Who appointed you in charge? And we get the same thing. We. Good, they, bad. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.